Alright, we've got 3 packages here. It's not too bad. This one I'm trying to decide how to open it without switching to the side with the dress on it. I'm not quite seeing how to do it, so we're going to cheat. This one's interesting because it's a Blu-ray version of something that came a long time ago from a company that actually did release something pretty recently. And that is that. Hold on, I feel the receipt also in there. Okay, let's snake this right there. Create a couple incisions. Not too much further. Try not to separate those, but that's okay. Oh, I thought this was 2, but no, it's a single limited edition. Oh shit. Well, that's an anime that is probably a higher priority watch just because I've seen the character around, and because... So it really confused me because she really reminds me of a character from School Life. And I know that sounds like a an idol anime, but it's not. It's its own thing. It's a weird thing. But yeah, she reminds me of one of the characters from that, except, of course, the much happier demeanor and, obviously, larger tits. I mean, those are... I'm trying to remember how the meme goes, but those are Bazonka Gonka Bahongas or something. I don't know. Looking at the back here, we've got DVD and Blu-ray. Oh, this is a DVD Blu-ray release? That's nice. Oh well, I guess it just says on the back. See, it's region A and B with an English dub. Huh. Well, I have to decide. Is there any more glue? No more glue. Okay. Oh, there is some glue on here, and maybe I should actually open this first. If I could get this glue off my hands off the side of the screen. Sugoi Dekai. Anyways, like I was saying, hold on. There's definitely a cat thing there. Is that maybe a texture? Patch sticker art card. So, okay, it's that cat thing there. It's really hard to see on here, but I bet when I stick it on something, it won't be too hard to see. Jesus Christ. A little provocative there. Not the worst I've shown on here, but I wasn't expecting it. Wow. Wait, I thought I had 2, and she's making 2 different poses. Is this the same character? I think it is. She definitely looks very different without her that mile-wide mouth, I guess. I probably don't have to worry about putting those back in since... but I might do that anyways. But I'll just do that off camera. Anyways, like I was saying, I tend to watch things that I don't know much about dubbed unless I have a reason to think, okay, I should probably watch this one subbed. And usually, is that the same cat? That's a very weird looking cat. Hey Ma, there's some weird looking cat outside. Yeah, unless, usually if I can tell if there's going to be like a strong character that a lot of people maybe fell in love with. Like Miss Kobayashi's Dragon Maid, I kind of figured out, okay, there's some characters here that are just really beloved characters, and I'm not going to risk my experience. Okay, I really like the fact that I go from the character that everybody's seen who probably hasn't seen this anime, the guy who we maybe have seen, who I do believe is our protagonist, for lack of better words, but I really have to watch it to make sure. She at least looks a little more normal and makes things look interesting, and it's like, oh, cool, and then a guy. So it's not like a female overload, even though in the back here she's scantily clad. Guess I could have predicted that, because considering you can see a bit of her on the side there, and I'm just opening this up to put this back in here. But yeah, this one I'm not sure. I haven't gotten the impression that she's necessarily a beloved character. But it might be fine. It might be good enough. Interesting. I didn't get too much of an impression on what exactly is in that book, but okay, well, you can consider this to be a high priority watch just because that face has been iconic. I don't know if it's actually really all that great, but I guess we're going to go under here and look at some sexy meat. La la. Oh, there's a little hand on that knee too. And a little work mini if that's kind of your kink. Even though there's nothing really kinky about this. So listeners, I guess she doesn't look like she's listening. It looks like she's talking, although maybe, you know, I was wondering if they were like going places listening for some sort of audio sound, but rock out. So yeah, I was thinking there was a little more musical edge to this. Blu-ray, regions A and B, English dub. So like this would be an example of something where this looks curious, but this one I'm not sure as much about. I would probably try to watch it dubbed. The other one might be okay, but I don't know. For some reason with Miss Kobayashi's Dragon Maid, I could definitely feel that there was some subtleness about the way the characters were portrayed that would be tricky to catch on English dub. And the English dub for that one may be fine, but you'd also think that because I watched that one subbed, I'd be watching the I'm not quite sure what I'm looking at just yet. Okay, so first we've got that same girl from the front, looking kind of interesting, and okay. I think that's a guy. He's a guy, right? This person looks like a guy. Is that the same person? I think it is. I think that this drawing was just slightly androgynous enough that I had the second guess. But yeah, for this one, since it'd be more experimental, I'd probably default to dub if I put this on in the background. I'm not sure if I talk about the dub enough. I probably mention it now and then. But yeah, and this was Holy Night, which that's really fucking hard to see. But interesting thing about this is it was released DVD only from Media Blasters. Maybe even long enough ago that it was released. Oh shit! This is some tenacious plastic. That maybe it was released under the Anime Works label. I don't know. It sounded familiar, looked kind of familiar, but I couldn't quite place it, and I had to look and say, "Oh, I bought the DVD version of this a billion years ago," and I had to do that to also make sure I hadn't already bought a Blu-ray version of some sort. And thankfully, I kind of, you know, my channel also allows me to look up what I bought a whole lot easier. I should probably be making my own kind of thing. Let's see. Audio, English and Japanese audio. So this has a dub, and this might be good. I don't know. I don't recall watching it at all. And since I'm kind of curious, because I think the DVD version was maybe a burn-on-demand one. So okay, weird stuff. I thought there was going to be 4 things, only 3 things, but you know, we got a big notable series there, and yeah. Well, here's this week's anime DVD collection update. Okay, so with my Friday friend, I am watching parts of Sword Art Online Alicization that I had already seen before. Can't really say that I was looking forward to watching it. I mean, the big problem. Okay, so there's this idea I mentioned to my friend where it's okay for shows to do stupid things for entertainment purposes, but they have to be kind of careful with what they do. You could have a movie like The Stupids, where the entire idea is the movie's just going to be completely arbitrarily stupid the entire way through, and you and the movie are in sync on that, and you enjoy it, and most of y'all maybe don't enjoy it because it's
full of a ton of dad jokey sort of things, like Stanley Stupid, the main character, is going to chase out after the bad guys, and it's a stupid movie, so they're not actually bad guys, and it's actually nothing. It's portrayed in an amusing way, in my opinion. He's like, okay, I need to chase them, and he figures out what he's going to use based on the number of wheels. So, like, bicycles have 2 wheels, cars have 4 wheels, rollerblades have 8 wheels, and it's stupid. But you and the audience, or the movie and the audience, are presumably in sync. The audience knows they're watching something very stupid. The movie's being very stupid. But then you also have shows that also kind of begin with something very stupid, and they're not intended to be stupid. Maybe they're intended to tell a certain story. Maybe they're just playing around with an idea. Maybe they're just something. But there's still something stupid. Maybe a couple things stupid. But the trick is, if you're going to begin stupid, you have to at least just use it as a starting point, not as something that just keeps, you can't just keep doing stupid if the audience and the visual media are kind of in agreement that they're trying to tell a story, because at that point you're going to lose people. And obviously, based on the rating, not everybody was lost, but my problem as I continue to rewatch Sword Art Online Alicization is I feel like it keeps doing little stupid things all over the place, which makes it feel completely artificial and breaks my and it's not even like these are things where you can just say, I don't know why you think that's stupid. It's something where you just have to be like, yeah, that's stupid. And it doesn't just keep setting it up, it just keeps having little places here and there where it's just like, it really breaks my... And like I said, part of the problem, and yeah, I said this last week, part of my problem is that, it's not that there's not good ideas or interesting curiosities in there. Like I said, the main Alice character is really interesting. It's just kind of unfortunate that I'm having to do this. And because it's a series, I can't just, get it out of the way. Unless I watch it all on my own, which I started doing, but since my friend's going through it, I'm like, nah, I'll spend my time watching something else and trying to get in line with that. And it's more the same. I think I've complained about it in a whole lot of videos. Probably don't need to have that lined out. So I also started World Trigger, the thing that confused me, and I'm not entirely sure what to think of the show. It strikes me as definitely a show aimed at a younger audience, and the thing that really gives me that is its super oversimplification of its own concepts, and it's jumping right into certain things without necessarily going a direction. It seems like these are supposed to be cool character designs and cool things that maybe they do, but yeah, something about it tells me it's intended. Now, I say that, but at the same time, it is actually pretty pleasing to look at, and maybe kind of frustrating in the same way as Alicization, where it's like you kind of want it to do better because it seems like it's doing something pretty good there, but it feels off. And I think the main thing that feels off is I'm almost at the end of the 4th episode. Like, I had paused and lost track of something. It was a really busy work week. And I never quite resumed until my Friday friend came over, and then I ejected it. I might continue watching it. It was depending on what was coming out today, and of course, Uzaki-chan wants to hang out is maybe a higher priority, just because, I've recognized that one as it left something of an impact, and I don't know if it was a positive impact, but I guess I want to find out. But, I might get back to this, and of course there's a big pile of anime there that I might get back to, and so, y'all are probably going to take that with a huge grain of salt. But if there's a reason I don't, it's because while there seems to be neat stuff going on, and even though it's sort of set up in a, we just need to get this story started way, it doesn't seem to be wanting to get the story started. Like, the idea of the 3-episode evaluation period for a show, which, it's very, very fair for a 12-episode show because, you've pretty much just watched a quarter of the series, and the series better have given you a reason to want to watch it the longer you get, the less that applies. But the more it applies, if you want to keep people watching your 73 episode show, then you really need to make sure you're giving them a reason to. And World Trigger does seem to be a little weak in that regard, because it's almost the end of the 4th episode, and I still don't know what kind of anime it is. Like, what I mean by that is, okay, so like you have Avatar: The Last Airbender, and one thing the first episode does really well is it tells you what kind of a show it's going to be. Okay, there are a bunch of young, I was going to say little kids, but I think it's more just appropriate to call them budding youngsters. They're definitely old enough to kind of be leaving the concept of childhood and maybe taking on the extra responsibilities, which some of their world kind of does. But at the same time, we kind of recognize that, you know, maybe they've not fully matured enough to handle all situations or something like that. So they're young, and the Fire Nation is hunting them down, and this is going to be a show about these kind of fun characters running away from the Fire Nation. And I've criticized Korra in terms of being in the opposite direction of that, where you begin with, is this about the next Avatar learning how to airbend? Oh, no, not quite. Is it about that? No, is it about that? Is it a show where they are playing foosball? Is it a show where they're crime detective kids on the street in a car? It kind of tends to change, and so it's a little harder to feel that good footing of, okay, I kind of have an expectation of what kind of show it's going to be. And World Trigger hasn't quite done that yet, because it currently has 2 of the characters here, and I've got a vague idea of what their relationship maybe is going to be, but no idea why these other characters are going to be in here. What this is setting up. Is this setting it up where it's like, are they going to become a special team or a notable team, or do they just never team up and it just so happens that every once in a while one of the characters is going to be doing something on their own? I don't really know. And to be 4 episodes in and to not know, it's unfortunately a little weak. And to give it some credit, it's trying to have a building, developing story, but it's coming at the cost of just not knowing what it is. And it's not like it doesn't have potential with where it is, but it's, you know, it's a general good idea to be doing things faster than 4 episodes. So that's why, you know, if I give it a little more time, maybe I can say, okay, now I know what it is, whether or not I definitely want to invest 73 episodes into this. But, you know, weird stuff. Let's see. And I guess that's pretty close. No, I guess there's also worth talking about a game called First Class Trouble. Because, you know, I'm at the point where there's just not a lot of push for me to do Monster Hunter Rise stuff as much. You know, I tend to keep going even though people in my peer group have slowed down months before. Maybe I'll be doing something tomorrow, because hopefully my brother and his peer group will finally finish the story mode stuff. You know, at least that sense of completion would be pretty good. But not having done that yet, you know, obviously I've put that down. I did some VR chat stuff over the weekend, which was mostly modifications to my world, because I wanted to be doing something while Alicization was on, and it kind of got me into a mood to add a couple of small features to my VR chat world. Mostly, I wanted better control of being able to show off some of the weather music stuff. So if somebody was like, oh, I want to see how this kind of weather, which actually happened on probably Saturday. It actually happened on Saturday. I'm like, oh, well, unfortunately, I'd have to finish working on the world that I'm working on right now, which gives me the ability to, you know, manipulate time, space, weather stuff, and eventually get them to see, oh, this is what the rain looks like in my world. So I finally uploaded that tonight. Encountered a small bug. After a lot of tweaking, figured out the exact subtle mechanism causing it and fixed it, and that's all cool. And so that is pretty much why the weekend disappeared. But again, First Class Trouble was a game that has been played a bit, and a bit of a mix. Now, to be fair, it's in early access, so there's a lot of stuff that can't fix, and some of it really needs to be fixed. I'd say it kind of has a conveyance problem, where it makes it a little tricky to figure out what you're supposed to do if you're really new to the game. And at the same time, it feels like the menus are a little less intuitive than they really should be. Like, there's a play game button, and I don't know, if I click on it, is it going to just dump me into a game? Will I be able to search for certain criteria for game? It's hard to tell because I don't know, there's something about it that's just slightly off. Adding players to your friend list was a little unintuitive, mostly because there were 2 search options, but one of the search options was actually supposed to search the friends that are already in your list, which surprised me, whereas the other is to actually find anybody out there with any kind of name. And that could be abused. Some problems with it I don't think can be gotten rid of. And it's kind of interesting because, you know, my brother played Dead by Daylight recently, and I think he actually reinstalled it even more recently, like just yesterday. But both games kind of have a problem where if you're a new person joining the game, then you can get stonewalled by people who know what they're doing to such a degree that it's not fun. And that's what makes it kind of weird to call it a better game than Among Us, because it's a social deduction game like Among Us, but Among Us has some real positives to it. For example, if you die, you don't get to participate in the trying to catch of the killers or trying to kill of the passengers, the crewmates. But you still do have things to do. So when you die in Among Us as a crewmate, you still have all your tasks, and it's a good idea for you to do your tasks, so you can still go to the task and say, how the fuck does this work? And you can hit your head and figure that out, and you can learn the game while still feeling like you're a valuable part. True, you know, crewmates don't always win by doing tasks depending on the group you're playing with and how things are set up, but it still provides a pressure that causes the imposters to have to kill people. And likewise, as an imposter, you're like, well, they voted me out early. Well, too bad for them. Every door is closed now. Haha, suckers. So, you know, you still have some ability to help out there. And I know that the creators of First Class Trouble tried to work around this, because you turn into this vacuum cleaner that none of the alive people can see, but they tried to give you some stuff like a little obstacle course and a couple of things to collect. But the big problem is that because of the lack of conveyance, or the weaker conveyance that it has, you can't spend that time kind of figuring out, okay, what do I need to learn in order to understand how to play this map better? How do I, you know, keep track of things? It doesn't quite give you the ability to continue playing. And Dead by Daylight has the similar problem, where if you're very, very new, you can either be a monster that just can't catch anybody because everybody knows how to dodge monsters, or you could be an individual person and the monster just keeps happening to run into you, and since you don't know how to escape them yet because you're new, you just end up spending all of your game on hooks. And that's what actually pissed my brother off, is because he couldn't play the game enough to learn how to play the game. And I think the reason he installed and played it yesterday is because they had 5 people instead of 4 people, so they could play their own custom game with, you know, friends being the monster and the humans, and then having more fun. And in theory, First Class Trouble could benefit from the same, but it is very strictly defined so that it has to have 6 people. So if you don't have a 6-person group, chances are you're getting some randoms from the pool, and chances are there's going to be a lot of people that are higher level for you. So my own experience was it only took one very experienced Reploid in our group of 4 and sometimes 5 people to just completely obliterate us without knowing what had even happened. So we kind of had trouble learning. They were still having fun. I was having a little fun. But I was also kind of like... And that's definitely a personal thing. And again, for some people this game is going to be more fun than Among Us. But to say that it's better than Among Us is definitely a very subjective experience. Because again, Among Us, not only do you have this ability to continue doing stuff after you die, which can be boring if you've already learned how to do all of it, but it also has customizable games. And so if you only wanted to play with 3 people, I don't think you can do that. I think you have to have at least 4 people. But if you wanted to do that, you could, you could play a traditional game. You could play one in which maybe you reverse the roles, where there's a game my group plays called Hide and Seek. And I don't know that First Class Trouble encourages game customization like that. And, these are, again, the trade-offs. So I wouldn't say that it's a better game than Among Us, and I wouldn't say that it's going to be a better game than Among Us if they manage to resolve some of these problems. But fundamentally speaking, you really do have to play with 6 people, and it seems to be very hardcore structured around that very idea. And then for me, my very first night playing it, was, again, I wasn't having as much fun as everybody else, but it's like, whatever. I'm not disliking my time. It's okay, a little fun. I'm not wowed, but I'm 38 fucking years old. I've been playing video games all my life, so my threshold for being wowed may be a little bit different. And you should take this into account, because you might be as old as I am, but still wowed by stuff like this. Or you might actually just really, really, really like this variant of the social deduction game. Or maybe you don't like social deduction games. But the other problem was that we just kind of had an asshole 2 games in a row when I was a Reploid for the first time, and I'm trying to learn how to do stuff, and he's just being a fucking asshole. I mean, I'm really underplaying just how bad he was. And that's the other problem, where you get plenty of people who will kind of introduce you to the game, but even if they're a Reploid, they'll kind of, steamroll your entire team. You'll just die really fast, because they know what they're doing, even if they're helping you. And that's, again, what makes that part not as bad. But then when you get these assholes, and a couple of them just come up, and they really are just complete jerks. And yeah, then what do you do? Well, you don't have as much fun, I can tell you that. And as I finally got a chance to learn more of the game, I've gotten back into that state of, well, okay, I can play this. And then the problem then is that the person I'm playing with lives over in California, and they work until pretty late at night. So, when I play how late I'm willing to stay up, I actually have to consider that stuff as a part of this. And usually if you're having to think about that when you're having to play a game, it's not that it makes it less fun, but it definitely makes it more to handle, I guess. So, weird game. Again, it's in early access, so it kind of makes sense that there's some of these problems. Some of the designs are definitely things that I wouldn't personally enjoy, and I would actually, if my brother said he was going to play it, I would warn him, they have to play in a game with 6 people starting out. No ifs, ands, or buts, because if you're playing with people from the internet, they have motivation to, play the game well, which basically means that people who are new are just going to get stonewalled. I guess if there was another problem, and this is definitely one that could probably get made better, it talks about doing minigames to do stuff, and I feel like there's only like 3 minigames. Now, to be fair, there are a couple of other things that are just like situations set up that aren't quite minigames, but like, oh, there's probably something at the end of that airlock, I can see it shining, I will go in, and that of course is only going to encourage Reploid to in some way get you out the airlock. And the Reploids are pretty powered in this. If I were to take a guess, part of the reason people probably like this more than Among Us is, in Among Us, the killers are powerful enough to kill players, but you definitely have to be very careful about killing people. Whereas in First Class Trouble, I think it is very easy for the boat to get tipped just enough that the Reploids can just steamroll. I mean, there's only 6 people and there's 2 Reploids, so if you happen to get them all and somebody hightails it out in the escape pod, and then you have I don't know, maybe you get a sneaky kill on another person, then it's now 2 on 2, and that means that as long as the Reploids are honest with each other and open with each other, they can prevent themselves from being voted out. Which means that then 2 human players have to work together to kill a Reploid, but if the Reploids are working together, then they can prevent that. Now, they can't do the same choking things the humans can, but that doesn't mean that they won't have other options, and so there's less incentive for a Reploid to stay hidden the whole time. Which is why I kind of have trouble playing as it, because I definitely like to play the straight character, but the game eventually reveals enough hints that people can figure out that you're the Reploid. And you also have enough fucking assholes out there that will not realize, oh wait, they've never been on this map before and they don't know how this works. Or they will see you run around and they're like, oh, he just ran for the syringe. I'm like, the syringe wasn't even in that direction. So, frustrating, but not necessarily bad. I definitely call it more mixed. Listen to what I've said and you can evaluate. Oh, those things that would be problems wouldn't be a problem for me. Okay, yeah, there is a way to handle the airlock thing, and that's to have magnetic boots. But you don't always find magnetic boots. And if they're there, somebody else may end up being lucky and getting them. So, you know, you kind of got a little item randomness there, but at the same time, if you had item assuredness, then I'd get my fire extinguisher every single time in the first stage, but, you know, sometimes I'm feeling social enough to do the first interactive puzzle that I don't get out to the hallway before somebody else has gotten my fire extinguisher. And that's just silly stuff. Okay. I hope you've gotten the right impression, because you can probably tell there's a little leaning for me to bitch about it, because there are things that irked me for sure. I mean, after that first night, I went to bed pretty pissed off, so, you know, obviously it didn't sit very well with me immediately. But it regained its initial, okay, I could play this, sure. And I guess if you wanted comparison, Among Us, I'm also not very, oh yeah, let's play Among Us. I am definitely more, yeah, I could play this, sure. I was just thinking, and then my problem is that in Among Us I will fucking murder everybody as soon as I see them, because, I don't know, VR chat Among Us kind of drove weird things into the head. Because that one, if you don't kill as quickly as you can, it's pretty hard for the imposters to win before the crewmates get their tasks done. And, of course, you also have to be very careful, because since the visibility is a lot better in VR chat, it's a little harder to get away with murder. People move places faster and all that stuff. That's a different thought. I think I'm at this point kind of blabbering on a little bit. If I'm going to say anything else, I guess it would be, you know, in all the stuff I've rewatched, I'm like, you know what, I haven't rewatched some of the stuff from Attack on Titan Season 1, and that really hits in the feels. That's good stuff. I couldn't help but think that if you traveled back in time to, like, the 90s or the 80s, heck, maybe even below that, before that, I don't know, you could show them and they would be like, you fucking asshole, I have to wait 20, 40 years, sorry, yeah, I'd have to wait 40 years to see the sequel, to see the continuation of this? Yeah, that would be a pretty dick move, because it's a pretty respectable series. I mean, I think everybody likes it and knows it, but, you know, I'm just gonna gush a little bit, because, you know, with all this bitching I'm doing, I should at least gush. It's a good show. It has very powerful moments, just driven by the music, the animation, the voice acting, and I watch English dub, and I think the English dub is pretty good. Maybe other people prefer Japanese. That would actually be perfectly fine. And it's got iconic moments, and you know, it's funny because Invincible was like, I want an iconic suit or something like that, and how do you make it something that's iconic? And unfortunately, they did a really good job with Omni-Man, I think. I think Invincible is still kind of recognizable, but I'm not sure if he's as iconic. Because I don't think it's the suit that makes the character iconic, but the suit could ruin that. And at the same time, you know, there's plenty of shows that do stuff, but Attack on Titan has stuff that you could just, like, post a screenshot and you're like... or something like that. I really ought to watch the 4th season. I'm probably going to wait for that to come out on DVD Blu-ray because I'll watch it with my Friday friend, and since we've been watching it dubbed, the consistency would be nice. I wonder if there's something else. Oh, yes. Like I said, I could probably be watching the new season of Miss Kobayashi's Dragon Maid. Oh well. There we go. And now we end this bitch session with a positive session. So let's end the this recording thing, this video on that note, and y'all have a nice week.